everybody. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Culinary Cast. I'm your host, Colby Jordan. I'm here with a very special guest today, Josiah Fast. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Josiah Fast. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I was in the Air Force for 11 years. I got out, and when I did, I was looking for a place to live. I had some friends that were stationed at Fort Bragg, and I was in California at the time. California's a little too expensive to live when you're not in the Air Force. So I ended up moving to North Carolina. I've been here about 3 years. And I'm a culinary student at St. Hills Community College. And I also am the chef and co-owner of Uncle Axels Detroit-style pizza, which is in Southern Pines, North Carolina.
So you've done everything pretty much. So
yeah,
been everywhere.
Yeah, I was stationed in Omaha, Nebraska for a while. Stationed down in Florida, and I was out in California a few times. Spent some time in Detroit. Obviously, that's kind of what led me to Detroit-style pizza. My ex-wife is from Detroit, and fell in love with the pizza there, and so that's kind of I always had that kind of in my back pocket when I was thinking of, business ideas, restaurant ideas. I really wasn't drawn to, fancy cuisine or anything too crazy. I definitely was looking for something a little more, I don't know, just easier, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I figured, two of the cuisines that I was really interested in was either opening a pizza place or a barbecue joint. Of course, North Carolinians are a little particular about the barbecue, me being a Texas boy. So I didn't think barbecue was quite the way to go. But pizza, something I was always interested in. It's always a food that I really liked. And especially with COVID right now, really the pizza industry has actually grown because it's, traditionally a takeaway and delivery type of.
It's real quick. You can just go grab a pizza, take it home for dinner. So, yeah.
And so it was kind of a COVID-proof restaurant. My business partner and I actually had another restaurant idea in the spring, and we were about ready to execute it. And thankfully we didn't, because we would have immediately gone out of business, because it was a place that would not have lasted a week into the quarantine and all that stuff. So it worked out pretty well for us.
Yeah, I'm actually helping open a restaurant right now. It's called the Workshop Tavern in downtown Aberdeen. Okay. So we're just trying to. It was supposed to be opened in like October, and it just kept getting pushed back just because of. We just wanted to do it right and make sure we can figure everything out before we start opening. So yeah, we're still figuring that out. But yeah. So what made you get into food? What made you get into restaurant owning and other things?
Well, I think just real quick, the restaurant owning part is really, I just can't work for anybody else. I guess I've only worked at 2 restaurants since I got out of the Air Force, and I quickly realized that I really needed to own my own place and be my own boss. So that's where that comes from. But as far as food, growing up, my uncle owned restaurants for a long time, but I never really talked to him about it or really got into that. I think it was just something that I kind of slowly got into, helping my mom cook when I was growing up. And then when I was getting closer to getting out of the Air Force, I realized, I need to figure out, what I'm going to do when I grow up, basically. And I was interested in wine, and I was looking at the sommelier courses and things like that. But I kind of settled on culinary. And I was thinking about on the way over here, food is the only thing that I'm really competitive about. I'll play cards, and I just really like just playing cards. I'm really not worried about winning. I just kind of want to hang out and, have some drinks and play cards and, have fun. But food's the one thing that I'm actually really competitive about. If it's a food competition, I remember one of the squadrons I was in, we would have a chili cook-off and a pie baking contest and things. It was really the first time in my life that I was actually really concerned about winning, and usually would win. And so I got into it, and then really into the history of food and just kind of everything about it. It's not just about the recipe for me, it's about why do people cook this way, or where does this come from, or what two kind of cultures kind of mesh to make this certain dish. I find it really interesting, the food history and all that. And with my GI Bill, I decided culinary school is the way to go, and that's how I ended up starting school and ultimately opening my own restaurant.
Yeah. So tell me about your time in the Air Force. Like, what was that all about? Like, what'd you do and stuff?
Well,
like
I was a airborne linguist. I'm fluent in a language called Pashto, which is spoken in Afghanistan. So I went to a school, learned how to speak that language. Was like I said, stationed in Omaha, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Flew on a big airplane, collecting intelligence in that language. Moved around a little bit, did some other jobs in the same idea. But it was great. I really liked it. But I just gotten to a point in my career where I kind of had to make a decision on, did I want to become a manager and manage people rather than actually doing my job, or did I want to get out and try something else? And when you hit that 10 or 11 year mark, that's kind of when you have to decide, am I going to do this for 20 or am I going to go ahead and get out?
Yeah.
And for me, I just decided to get out. And by that time, my interest and my kind of want to cook, professionally was starting to really take over. And I kind of dovetailed really nicely as far as, deciding to get out and then, pursue a different career.
Yeah. And that's like, food's like, in my personal opinion, the best job in the world.
Absolutely.
Because like, I love food like so much. And like, there's that, that's true at Kathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, had the quote like, food is essential, therefore make it good. And it's like, yeah, food is essential, but like, you can do so much with it. You know what I mean? Like, and even if you look at food as like an art form, like when you get like paintings and stuff like that, it's just like sight. But with food, there's smell, there's like taste, even like
texture,
even like sounds,
Sure.
It's just, it's, you can be so expressive with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I love food. You know what I mean? It's just, I get to go to work and play with food all day, and it's the best job in the world. You know, love everything about it. So you grew up in Texas, right?
I did.
So what was that? What was Texas like?
It was hot. Growing up in Houston, no, it was good. I just grew up in a suburb of Houston. It was your normal kind of suburban upbringing. And when I finished high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I still went to college like most kids do, and really just wasted a few years. And then that's kind of how I ended up finding myself in the Air Force. Was just really didn't know where I wanted to go. I was actually a prison guard at the time, working at a prison, and that's not the job I necessarily wanted to do very much longer. And so went and saw Air Force recruiter, and then went on from there. But yeah, it was good. It's definitely made me very, I don't know, say opinionated about certain types of cuisine. Like talked about earlier, barbecue is its own thing there. It's a little different than, I really enjoy barbecue and I enjoy different regions of barbecue, but Texans have a different way to do it. And Mexican food is the other one that I'm very opinionated on, I guess. And Tex-Mex is its own cuisine. It's not trying to be some kind of like watered down American version of Mexican food. It's its own cuisine, and it was born out of the borderlands of Texas and Mexico, and it's its own thing, its own recipes, and its own heritage, in my opinion. But yeah, so Texas, barbecue and Tex-Mex, those are the two passions that I have as far as from growing up there.
Yeah, and then when you went to Detroit, you got into pizza, right?
Yeah, just visiting my ex-wife's family. I'd never had pizza like that. Just very different than, the national chains like, Pizza Hut or Domino's, whatever.
Yeah.
I was aware of kind of what makes New York pizza and kind of what makes other pizzas there. Chicago's got, what everyone thinks of as far as Chicago pizza, the big deep dish pizza. And it was similar to that. It's a thicker pizza, but it's different. And it was really good. And thankfully, when we were stationed in Florida, there's a national chain that does Detroit style pizzas called Jets. And they had one down that was only, not that far from our house. And so we would order from that. Yeah. And it's a really good national chain. They actually have some up in Raleigh now too. They're starting to expand on the rest of the East Coast, but yeah, it's a good pizza. It's definitely, there are certain things that make Detroit pizza. But it's a good alternative, and it's starting to kind of catch on and become more popular.
Pizza's a big thing. It's a lot of like people in the culinary world don't overlook pizza because it's like, Domino's, Pizza Hut.
Sure.
Papa John's, whatever. But there's actually like some really cool things you can do with pizza and a lot of different things you can do, you know?
Yeah, and that's really what I think lends Detroit style pizza to kind of my culinary background and kind of the chef side of things, because it really is a platform and it really allows you to do some interesting kind of non-traditional toppings. I mean, obviously, you know, at our restaurant, the number one, you know, pizza that we make is pepperoni. Obviously, everyone wants pepperoni pizza, and it's good, and there's a reason why, is because it is a good pizza. And cheese is very popular, but because it's a thicker crust and it's kind of gives you some foundation, you can really put a lot of crazy stuff on it, and that's really what's made it exciting for me coming out of, you know, culinary school, is the opportunity to put some interesting things on top of it. So yeah, it's good pizza.
Yeah, so you rent a kitchen, right?
I do. So there's a kitchen in Southern Pines. It's actually a cafe and a catering business called Time and Place, and the owner, Leslie, rents out to us hourly, and we can use all of our stuff in there. You know, we've got our own storage spot for our, you know, dry storage, and own storage, you know, spots for our cold stuff, freezer stuff, and we basically just you know, go in on Thursdays and do some prep, and then Fridays we go in for service and we cook pizzas, and it's a really good you know, situation for a business that's trying to get up and running. Because you don't have to make that full investment in you know, your own business, your own space, and having to pay a, you know, full rent. So it's a very, you know, cheaper way to pay some rent to something.
You don't have to buy equipment. And
exactly, she's got everything.
That's a big expense, right?
Absolutely, there. Yeah. I mean, for a pizza place, you know, pizza ovens, brand new, you're talking, you know, $15,000-$20,000. One of the limitations actually we have right now is we just don't have enough space in our mixers. Because we're just using like KitchenAid mixers, which is not ideal. So it'll take me, you know, hours to make all the doughs that I have to do for the night, because we make them all, you know, fresh the day of. But if, you know, eventually when I can move up to getting, you know, a larger mixer, dough mixers, like bread, like more like your dough mixer, not the planetary mixers that we're used to using. The dough mixers are rated by weight of dough. So I'm looking to try to get into, you know, 60 to 80 pounds of dough at a time, which would allow us to do, obviously, our dough so much quicker than what we're doing right now. Because right now, the most I can really do is 10 to 12 pounds of dough at a time. 10 to 12 pizzas at a time. And so some nights, you know, we're selling 60 pizzas. It'll take me 3.5 hours to mix dough.
And
so
that's, you know, just dough. You know?
That's just the dough part, So, yeah.
So you've recently run into some trouble with the health department.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things, and it's something that, you know, a learning process, and it's something that we that I will happily be able to pass on to other people that are trying to start restaurants. It's just a different situation when you're a secondary operator within another kitchen. Because you know, Time and Place already has their own health score, their own thing with the health department, and so we, you know, honestly, the health department's not 100% sure what to do with us right now either. And they're the one person that's going to be doing our inspection and her supervisor are talking about what they're going to do. But we're very hopeful that soon we'll be all back up and running. Basically, right now we're taking the opportunity to continue working on new recipes, working on new toppings, working on some sauces and things like that. Some other ideas that we've been having on how to expand the menu. And, you know, we can still cook for friends and get feedback that way, which is kind of how we started. You know, that's kind of how a lot of restaurants, I guess, start, is you just start making food that's good, and people are like, wow, this is really good. I've never had anything like this. You should start to open a restaurant, and enough people tell you that.
Off of it,
enough people tell you that, and you're like, you know what, maybe we should open that. So it's kind of how we ended up.
And that's like basically when you like know how to cook, you can cook all day. That's not really the problem. Once you run into like business stuff, like, you know, the health department, obviously. I mean, I worked at a restaurant last year, and we installed new like walk-ins, but the guy who owns the restaurant decided he wasn't going to sign any building permits. He wasn't going to go through the paperwork for it, and turns out they had to come shut us down. And yeah, but I'm out of that job now, so
yeah.
But yeah, so it was all a big mess, and a lot of stuff went down. But yeah, so that's, and like, you know, you go to culinary school, you learn how to cook, but then like, there's everything else you got to do.
Yeah,
to open your own business.
I will say in our program, I have been really happy and kind of surprised at how much they go into the business part of it.
Yeah,
which has been really good. You know, taking the purchasing classes, you know, nutrition classes. Those have been really good, and it's something that I didn't think. I thought it was going to just be sitting around cooking all the time, but I've really enjoyed those. And in my case, you know, thankfully, I have a business partner who I've known for many years. He's just an Air Force buddy of mine that we met down in Florida. But he's getting his MBA at NC State right now, and so he's handling the business side of it. And he's very, very diligent, very smart guy. So he's been able to help out with all that stuff. And so he kind of lets me do the food stuff, and he handles the business half of it. And we, you know, definitely, cross into other, you know, each other's territories every now and then.
Yeah,
because he's a good cook himself. But it's just been really nice having a guy who's going through a program to learn how to make businesses work, and having that as your business partner.
Yeah,
really
and that's like
fortunate.
Next semester, I'm still in high school, so I can't. I've taken all the classes I can take.
Yeah.
For like culinary stuff, so next semester I have to take entrepreneurship and small business management. So I'm excited, but
no, absolutely. Those are.
I'm just going to go to school and be hungry now. That's like Garmager. Like I love Garmager. That was like the best class of all time.
I think, you know, I was telling people that I think the two best classes at Sand Hills are Garmager and Baking 1.
Yeah.
Because Baking 1 is every week it's something different and interesting, and something that you've always wanted to know how to make, like a baguette, or make pretzels, or make, you know,
donuts,
whatever. Yeah, exact donuts and all that. And so every week, and it's varied enough that you never get bored.
Yeah.
With it, you know, jumping between, you know, sweet and savory type stuff. But yeah, that Garmager class every single week was something just delicious and different and really cool technique.
And we just show up and cook lunch and then eat
it. Eat it and clean up the kitchen and go home. It's perfect class.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really enjoyed, you know, pickling things and, you know, making, you know, the chutneys and, you know, the sauces and.
Yeah, that force meat was really good.
Yeah, learning how to make sausage and all that. You know, I mean, I didn't think I'd be using a sausage grinder as much as I did this semester. But that was really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the force meat terrines were excellent. And that it's interesting. That's why I like Chef Currier, is just because he is, you know, old school chef that likes the old things that used to be real popular maybe back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. And, you know, he can see that those things are kind of getting to be, you know, more popular and interesting again. Yeah. So, but yeah, terrines are great. They should be on menus, you know, because they are really good. That's good food.
But, you know, in Garmager we learned sausages, sandwiches. We even did.
Sandwich week was great. That muffaletta, I still think about muffaletta. Like muffaletta is so good. It's like one of my favorite sandwiches.
Yeah, that po' boy though.
Yeah, the shrimp po' boy, absolutely. Yeah.
And we also learned like the fruit carving and the ice carving, which was really cool.
That was a fun day.
Yeah. Fruit carving. I made a when we took the watermelons home. Yeah. I made a like a rose, like a flower, and it didn't like look good, and like I think I did terrible. But like I did it like my girlfriend's house, and like they were just like blown away by it. And I was like, I just took 10 minutes with a knife to a watermelon, and they were like, you know, that's the best thing I ever seen. It's like, this is so cool. You learn how to do that, and that's like another thing with food. Like that's a lot like what Chef Currier was talking about, like the ice carving thing. Whereas like you can like mess up, and you can do just like something small, and to you it doesn't mean that much because you know there's always better. But to other people, you know, it's the greatest thing they ever seen in their life, you know? And that's like food in general, because like I can, like when I'm like cooking at home, like I'll make a dish and I taste it and I was like, well, I failed at that. And like my family would come up and taste it and it's like, you cooked this, you know, this is amazing. And I'm like, no, it's not, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's just having those fundamentals, you know, because there's just certain things that as a culinarian, as someone who's been trained, you know, classically how to cook, there's just certain little things that you do, you know, how to build a sauce, how to make a, you know, soup the right way, how to build things and layer flavor. And it's something that, you know, we don't really, and it's, a testament to the education that we don't really think about it. We just do it.
Yeah.
But to other people, they're not doing that kind of thing. So yeah, it's really easy to impress people that are used to eating a certain way.
And that's why cooking's so cool too, because like once you learn like the fundamentals and what stuff it is, you just do whatever you want. You know
Absolutely,
what I mean? And it's not always going to work.
Yeah.
But it's good thinking of new things, trying new things out. I heard the saying you're going to cook a lot of bad stuff before you start cooking good stuff. And just trial and error. And
yeah, it's funny you say that, because one of the kind of going back to what got me into cooking and being being competitive on that, this was years and years and years ago, I for some reason decided I wanted to make boeuf bourguignon, like the classic Burgundy beef, Julia Child style, beef stew, basically French beef stew.
Yeah.
And I messed it up so bad. Just had to throw it all away. It was totally ruined.
Yeah.
Ruined a bottle of wine in the process. It was awful.
Yeah.
And I remember being like upset about that for like 2 to 3 days. Just being like, God, how did I mess that up? And it's just because at the time I didn't have any fundamentals of cooking.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying to follow a recipe, and I messed it all up, and it was horrible. And actually, last night for my girlfriend, that's what we basically just cooked, like a nice French beef stew. But yeah, it's funny how there's certain just little things that you can do to make something really good, and it's really not that much. You just have to be trained in it and how to do it.
And that's like learning fundamentals. I remember it was Culinary Skills 1, and it was the first day we got to use our knives. Yeah. And they had taught us, like put it on like the edge of your finger, and but I never done that before. So I just kind of watched them do it, and I was like, I can do that. No, I couldn't, because like I started and I put my finger down like that.
Yeah, sure.
And like literally he's like, all right, y'all go ahead and start. I sliced the top of my knuckle open. So like literally like 5 seconds into it. And he was like, all right, y'all go ahead and start. And he turned around and I was like, chef? He's like, what? I held up my hand.
Well, there's a guy in my class, culinary class, that I should beat, because he cut himself when he was taking his knives out of the case. So he didn't even start cutting things before he cut himself. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like somebody probably cuts himself, every class the first day they pull knives out. So
and that's pretty normal. I heard a story from a guy a few days ago. He was a culinary instructor, and he was teaching this class to debone chickens, I think. Uh-huh. And he would always teach them, like, if you like put your knife down, then you're going to get a bunch of stuff on your hand, and when you grab your knife, you're not going to be able to hold it. So, and there was this one kid who always put his knife down and never could figure out, and he always, told him, like, hey, don't put your knife down. And he said one day he walked up to him, and he was bleeding down his neck, all over his jacket, all over everything. And he's like, what did you do? And he's like, chef, I scratched myself. He scratched himself with his knife, but he stabbed his neck wide open. Yeah. And just bled everywhere. Yeah. So, but I got a few burns in there, and I got marks on my fingers. It's just,
I've cut myself plenty of times.
Yeah. So. And that's like, a lot of people don't get this about like cooking, because they just like, oh, you're in the kitchen, you cook this, you cook that. It's like, it can be rough sometimes.
It can, and it's also just because of the amount that you're doing. You're constantly cutting stuff. You're constantly by ovens and stoves and everything. So yeah. I mean, I've definitely burnt myself in my own kitchen and maybe nicked myself, but it's just because you're, when you're professionally cooking, you're in there. And you just have so much more opportunity to do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's like, now when I cut myself or I burn myself, it's not like a, holy crap, it's just a, dadgummit, I got to go put on a Band-Aid. I got to go throw away whatever else.
Exactly, yeah. You know what I mean? More makes me just mad, Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll burn myself, and I'll be like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Well, go back to what I was doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I remember a few days ago, I put my fingers down on a flat top. So that felt nice. And I had some Carnita on it. Mm-hmm. I was tossing it, and I had some Carnita on the edge of my spatula. And as soon as I tipped my fingers, I flew my hand up, and Carnita went flying all over the kitchen. So, yeah, that was fun. And also, like, when you're in the kitchen all day, like, it's hot.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I worked front of the house someplace. I didn't work in the kitchen, thank God, because in the summertime, the AC didn't really work back there, and I'm pretty sure they checked the temperature of like a corner and like the back, and it was like 110 degrees.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
You know, it can get hot, especially like. And then I worked in another place where we had like an open grill. You know, it would be hot over that.
Yeah, thing. I know. The thermometer I use is magnetic.
Yeah.
And so when I take it down to temp something, when I open it up, it's already like at 120 a lot of times, 110 degrees. So just before you even get into the the meat or whatever you're temping. Yeah, it's a hot business,
Yeah.
But
and that's why I don't like wearing long sleeves in the kitchen. Like I'm gonna start wearing like short sleeve chef coats.
Yeah, that's what I wear. When I'm at the restaurant,
I'd rather get burns all over my arms than be hot. I cannot stand being hot and sweaty. But I can get burnt. I don't really mind anymore.
Yeah,
I just don't want to get burnt too bad, because I heard a story that a guy, he was standing on top of a fryer to clean a vent, but the fryer was on and he slipped and he fell in the fryer all the way up to like half his calf.
Cheers.
And just completely like burnt all of his skin off.
Yeah,
yeah, it was pretty bad.
It's a dangerous business.
Yeah,
I've seen some pretty bad stuff happen.
I'm scared of like cutting my finger off or something like that.
Well, it's a concern, but
there goes my career,
Yeah,
or like falling in a fryer or anything like that. But it can be a pretty risky business sometimes, and very long hours. And
absolutely. That's one of the other nice things about owning your own place is you can make your own hours. And,
I watched a documentary on Netflix. It was called Chef's Table. You ever watched it?
I've watched a little bit of Chef's Table.
There was a guy on there who he had a food critic come visit him, and they didn't like it, and he got so devoted that he said when he would wake up, he would work all day, and he would sleep in the restaurant, and he would wake up the next day and go back to work.
Yeah.
And he did that for like a few months straight, and like it almost killed him. But it's fun though. Like
it is fun, and I think that it is important to have that balance, and to not throw yourself into it that much.
Yeah.
Again, that's another thing that I will value with my restaurant is taking time off and not feeling that we have to be open 364 just closed for Christmas kind of thing. Like give yourself time to take a step back and get your head right or your body right, all that stuff. And then also your staff, just not overworking them. So that's something that I really respect about in Southern Pines. Just that's where I live, so those are the guys I know. But Chef Chef Warren's, they close for good chunks of weeks and a couple of weeks, throughout the year. My roommate actually is a line cook there, and they're closed right now. They closed. I think on the 1st. I think they were open on the 1st, and they're going to be closed, for 2 weeks before they reopen. Yeah, and that's important. That just gives your entire staff and everyone just time to recharge the batteries and get back in it.
Yeah,
and really, like, I understand that if especially when you're brand new, you might not be able to do that because of rent, and you have to be open every day, so you're making revenue and you're paying your rent. But once you're established and you're doing pretty good. As a business owner, taking that hit for being closed a couple weeks, but to let everyone just to get their head right, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I strive to do as a restaurant owner, is just to, people are gonna, sure, some people might be mad about it, but your real customers, your loyal customers, they're gonna be okay. I can't go to that restaurant, or I can't order from that pizza place for a week or two, around Christmas because they closed. Because they want to spend time with their families, or they close, like in the summer or spring or whatever, so everyone can kind of go off and do something on their own, And so that's something that I value and something that I want to do with my own restaurant.
And it can be hard sometimes because, like, me personally, I love being in the kitchen.
Sure,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like my favorite place on earth, pretty much, because a lot of times, like, I used to work in a restaurant that was like 2 minutes up the road, and I would get to work at 1 every day, I'm pretty sure, and work till 9, so I worked 8 hours. And I was like cool with my boss and stuff like that, so I'd show up at like 12 o'clock some days, and be like, hey, I'm ready to work, showing up an hour early, because I'd get bored at the house,
Sure, yeah.
I got nothing to do around here. I'd rather be at work. And it could be tough sometimes because a lot of people get like so motivated and so like dedicated to it that it can be hard to realize, hey, that's a bit, you kind of overworking yourself, and it can be tough sometimes when you're like not spending time with your family and stuff like that. And so it can be a rough business sometimes.
It is. It's notoriously notorious for being a business that is really rough on people. But again, I think, especially in my position as an owner, you can control that,
Yeah.
Being able to say no. And I think I actually read an article, I can't remember what website it was on, but it was like a food centric type website.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how this time with COVID has really let restaurant owners realize that they need to say no more often,
Mm-hmm.
Of course you want to strive, because we're in the hospitality business, and you want to strive to make your customers happy and all that. But like that notion that the customer is always right is kind of going away.
Yeah, that's kind of...
And because you need to be able to say no, because at the end of the day, you're and I take this very seriously. I don't have employees yet. We're looking at hiring people pretty soon, but those are my employees, and I need to watch out for them. I need to take care of them. And so, if it's between my customer and my employee, I'm going to take my employee's side.
Yeah.
That's incredibly important.
When you're working in the restaurant with people, those people become like your family.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I love the people in my first job. Like, even though a lot of stuff went down, a lot of drama, and
sure. Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that, but
normal,
I still loved all of them. As I worked there for almost 2 years, and we kind of become a family. You
sure.
know?
Yeah.
And so that would be important. I was going to say something, but I forgot what I was going to say.
It's all right. It'll come back.
I don't know, but I forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, but restaurants are fun.
They are. They really are super fun. It's been a good. I don't have a ton of experience, to be honest with you, because I was doing something else for so long. But the two restaurants I've worked at, I've enjoyed. They were good. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about what to do, and I learned probably more what not to do. As far as being a business owner. And I'm excited to also bring kind of my how I look at the world. Being a veteran and how the Air Force kind of taught me to have relationship with people and how that works, leadership and things. Because, I will say one of the things that was really hard for me to transition to when I got out, and I was working at a deli in town in Southern Pines, was, the people I was working with, they get really spun up and get really bent out of shape really quickly if things weren't going right.
Yeah.
And, being a, vet and having gone on quite a few deployments, I was like, guys, all we're doing is making sandwiches, like, let's calm down here. Like, it's going to be okay. They can wait a little bit longer, or we can make sure that this gets done right and done safely. Because when I was flying on airplanes, things were really serious, life and death type stuff.
That's like more than just someone getting pissed off because their sandwiches takes extra 5 minutes.
And we still always strove to be very calm,
and
very collected, and so I think that's another thing that I bring to as a restaurant owner is like, nice, let's just chill out and just get it done. And of course, if it goes too far the other direction, and you're too lackadaisical, and so then of course you're not going to have customers because no one's going to come to your restaurant.
Yeah.
So you still have to do it professional. You still have to realize that they're the ones that are making your money. But you can still kind of calm down. And, I think I'm very hopeful that that old school chef of, kind of like Gordon Ramsay, yelling and screaming and all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping that's going away because really there's just no need for it. You're not, I mean, sure, after service, you can go talk to that person if they're messing up, and you can really, drive your point home.
Yeah.
But during service, there's just no point in getting all bent out of shape. No one's ever going to cook faster or get things done better because someone's yelling at them right on top of their back.
And that's like as a kitchen, you got to be a well-oiled machine. Everyone's doing their part. Everyone's, has their own place. Everyone's working. And it's not going to work right if you got people yelling and screaming at each other every 5 seconds.
And anytime I ever got yelled at, never made me want to like work harder or work better or do something, whatever. it's negative.
It just pisses you off.
Yeah,
and you're like, hey,
and you don't need that negative energy and all that negative, attitude in the kitchen. So
yeah.
For me, there's really no place for that.
Yeah.
In the modern kitchen, this is not.
And I'm not going to say I'm innocent from it, because I've said some mean things to some people working in the kitchen before. But I've worked in 4 restaurants. So, I'm not saying I have all the experience in the world, but I have seen people get mad at each other and people scream and holler at each other, and it doesn't help anything. It just, makes things worse. And that's like, I watched it was like a short documentary about, gosh, I can't even think of the name. It was a place in Las Vegas. I can't even remember the name of the guy, but like a Michelin, it's either 2 or 3 Michelin starred restaurant. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, and they were interviewing like the head chef there, and he was saying, there's no need for yelling and screaming. There's no need for any of that. Everyone shows up to work. Everyone knows what they're doing. Yeah. And we get it done. And, it's a quiet kitchen, just everyone doing work. And, that's a big thing. And like sometimes when I'm working and I maybe like not really get pissed off at anyone, but maybe if I'm in a bad mood or something like that, I just want to work, let me work, Yeah. And a lot of people, I can't stand it when like people get in my way. And that kind of, I need to be a bit more open to whatever, but but sometimes I just want to work. Like I just want to like, don't talk to me.
I think
leave me alone. Let me do my job. You know what I mean?
There's something. I mean, for folks like us, that's like therapeutic about just doing prep, just being a prep cook that day, and just putting your head down and just banging out a bunch of carrots, banging out a bunch of cucumbers, and just worried about yourself and your own prep. And I think I really enjoy that too. Like any day that I just got to sit there and just do a bunch of bell peppers and tomatoes and stuff for sandwich line or whatever. Like that was fun. It's therapeutic, and just to sit there and just make this big pile of carrots a smaller pile of carrots. And
that's like I love it, like being busy and stuff like that. Which things can go wrong. People get mad at each other. But when everything's like working right, it's the most satisfying thing in the world.
Absolutely.
You get food, you cook food, you send food out. You get food, you cook food.
When everything's cooking,
it's so fun.
It's super
you know
fun,
what I mean? And just like, it's, and this is why I really think it's the greatest job in the world, because when you're in the kitchen and everything's clicking, everything's falling in place, everything is working right, it is so much fun. I'd rather do that than anything else. It's so much fun. And I will say, being a chef and being, a culinary and being a cook is not for everyone, because I have worked with some people and I've met some people that just can't handle it. And, I'm not like trash talking or anything.
Sure, no, I understand.
But it can get very stressful when, you start getting busy and you got the whole, hanger like full of tickets. And more tickets are coming. It gets hard sometimes, and I'm not saying like it's easy all the time for me. It's hard.
It's a hard job.
It's hard. And you get stressed out of your mind. You got this going over here and this going over there, so it can be stressful. And I don't blame everyone for not being able to do it. You know? It can be a hard job sometimes. So tell me about the history of Detroit pizza.
All right. Well, so I'm going to go back a little bit further than that, if that's all right. So in the island of Sicily in Italy, they have this dish called sfincione. So sfincione is kind of similar to pizza. It's kind of like a cross between focaccia and pizza. So what it is, it's high hydrated dough, big airy, open textured crumb. And what they do is they make a really thick sauce, tomato sauce, that's got anchovies and caramelized onions in it. They cook it really down, so it's really thick and really heavy. They put that on top of the dough, and then they have this cheese called Caciocavallo cheese. It's a like a sheep's milk cheese. They mix that with breadcrumbs, kind of like any kind of more expensive item. When you're talking about like a lower like a cheap food, you always obviously stretch it with breadcrumbs. So they stretch out their Caciocavallo cheese with some breadcrumbs. Anyway, they put that on top of the tomato sauce, put it in the oven, and it bakes. And it's very similar to what we would think of as pizza. Bread, tomato sauce, cheese. So this sfincione, and it's also very regional in Sicily. There's a lot of different ways. There's some of it's round, some of it's square. It's mostly square, but there's places that make them round. Some of them top it with different toppings, but pretty much the more, the stuff you're getting in Palermo is a little different than some of the smaller villages. But for the most part, it's a big open, airy crumb, dough with tomato sauce and some like grated cheese, Caciocavallo cheese. It's like closer to like Parmesan or like Pecorino, like that way you would know in the United States.
Yeah.
So anyway, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you've got these Italian immigrants coming to the United States, settling in New York City. Pizzerias start opening up. Of course, most of the pizzerias are basing their pizza off of the pizza from Naples, the round pizza, thin crust, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of sauce, maybe some toppings, but round pizza. Well, a lot of those places, especially ones that come, the owners are Sicilian, they're making Sicilian pizza, which is baked in like a sheet pan and is square. So basically, they're taking that sfincione and they're kind of Americanizing it, putting more cheese on it, maybe a little bit lighter sauce, and they're baking it up like a pizza would. So they start calling that Sicilian pizza. Like in New York City, if you go to like a pizza place, in addition to like the normal, round pizzas that you would think of as New York style, they have like a lot of times they'll have like what they'll call a Sicilian style pizza, Sicilian slice, or a grandma style. Because like if you go to an Italian grandma's house, they're not making round pizza most of the time. They're gonna make you the square pizza that's baked in a sheet pan. Anyway, so that was in the late early 1900s when these pizza places are starting to pop up in New York City. Now you fast forward in the mid 1940s. You got this guy named Gus Garrow. He's got this bar called Buddy's Rendezvous. Buddy's Rendezvous is just a straight bar. This guy realizes, though, that these people are leaving to go get food. So he's thinking, well, if I feed them, they're going to stay in the bar stool longer. They're going to drink more beer, and that's good for my business.
Yeah.
Well, seeing his wife was Sicilian, she was like, well, I can make some pizzas, make Sicilian-style pizzas. He's like, great. Well, seeing as this is Detroit, he doesn't really have a lot of access to a bunch of expensive pizza pans. But what he does have access to are automotive part trays, which are these blue steel welded rectangular, heavy duty, metal trays. Yeah. That are high walled, so it's ready for good for like a thicker pizza. So he gets a bunch of those because they're really cheap, and that's what he starts making his pizza in. A bunch of olive oil. And that's really what makes Detroit pizza. There's two things, in my opinion, that really makes Detroit pizza. It needs to be square, rectangular, and it needs to have cheese all the way to the edge, because that's how he would cheese his pizza. Yeah. All the way to the edge, so as the pizza cooks, the cheese melts down the sides of the crust, and it actually caramelizes against that blue steel pan. And so that's what really makes Detroit pizza pizza. Some people talk about the cheese. There's a type of cheese that traditionally is used in Detroit pizza. It's called Wisconsin brick cheese. It's kind of a cross between like cheddar and kind of like making cheddar, but like in a European way. It's a little more pungent, but it's a softer cheese. But to me, the cheese really doesn't matter as much, because it has to be square and it has to have that caramelized cheese crust going around the edge. Yeah. But yeah, so that's how it got started. Of course, like all other places, some of his employees started breaking off and making their own thing, and it became a very regionalized pizza type that really a lot of people didn't know about until very recently, and it's actually starting to catch on. But yeah, it was just kind of a happy coincidence that it was in Detroit, which was, obviously the Motor City, automotive place where you could get these pans. And these pans really lent themselves to being perfect for baking this beautiful caramelized cheese crust, and that's kind of what we do at our restaurant too. So
do you use automotive tray pans too?
We don't. So there's a really good company called Lloyd Pans, and they make a bunch of different types of baking pans, but they are modeled exactly after automotive tray pans. So we've invested a lot of money in Lloyd Pans, and Lloyd Pans is a great company, and we're really happy with them. And they make a product that is something that we that we want and what we're always striving for.
That's pretty cool.
And you can't do it with any other pan. It's not gonna, that pizza's not gonna work like just in like kind of the normal sheet trays that we use, like a quarter sheet or whatever.
Yeah.
It has to be a pan that's like that because it's gotta cook and caramelize and do its thing. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll end it here. Thank you, Josiah.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
It was great to be here.
It's been a great talk.
I'll have to come back out. We're going to talk about something else.
Yeah, I'll get you back on sometime. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for all coming to the first episode of the Culinary Cast. And I'll see you next episode. Thank you.